Welcome everyone to July Power Hour. It's 2024 and I am Tessa Chappell. I live outside Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm joined by Megan, who now lives outside Phoenix, Arizona. I will have to get used to saying that. In Phoenix. Actually, she is in Phoenix, Arizona. So we're coming to you live tonight. We have two layouts we're going to work through. We're going to get our circles on a little bit, which was unplanned, but I think that they will be fun to have side by side in your book. So we will start with mine. I'm going to pull my camera down a little bit. I'll flip over to it. So how many of you remember the decorative papers from old CM that had there was paper that looked like this? And so it has been on my mind for a while. Turn that a little bit. To recreate this. And so I finally sat down with my circle punch and I was determined to figure it out. And it really isn't that hard. And there are a couple variations you can make. So if you don't have the circle punch, which will be the easiest option, I did play and figure out, using the square punch or the hexagon even, and the custom cutting system if you need to. But you will need a ruler and a pencil or a pen. And it will be easiest if you have a 13 by 13 mat. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my, there we go, a little bit better. Okay, so I am going to just recreate actually the same thing that I made for my sample layout because I have more pictures for this. Here's a disclosure. Here's what I had in the picture, but I haven't really committed to using those embellishments on the layout because I wanted to do them both side by side before I did. So this is a nice layout to use, especially for a paper that maybe is a little bit dramatic, statement paper, something you just want a little bit of. And that's what I felt like with these rectangles. I just needed a little bit, but they did go with the pictures and I chose a blue cardstock. You can use paper, you don't have to use cardstock, but you want to make sure you have a very definitive contrast or you're going to lose the art in the print if you don't have a lot of that. And honestly, I would just play with a scrap piece of paper. If you're not sure what you want to do, get a piece of white or something to play with and make sure you're solid with your technique before you do. And then you can fill the middle with your pictures. If you have extra space, obviously you can use some border punches, some laser borders or embellishments, whatever space you have left. I have a lot of photos to fit in mine, so I didn't have a lot of room to get more. So like I said, I'm going to do the same thing. So I have the second sheet of paper and I have a sheet of blue cardstock and I'm going to be using my 13 by 13 mat. The first step is to cut this down to an 11-inch square. So you want to grab your trimmer. This is going to give you two 1-inch pieces that you can save for a layout. For those of you in summer scrap, one of the scrap boards was using 1-inch strips on your layout. So if you haven't done that yet, you could save these pieces for that. So I have an 11-inch square. And now we need to mark it up. What I found the easiest thing to do was to center this in my 13 by 13 mat. And actually, it should be fine. Sometimes I can tell my cardstock's a little big. I only cut off an inch and I can tell it's actually a little bit bigger than 11 inches, which is fine. So I'm going to center this within my mat because I am going to use these measurements as centered measurements, which we'll talk about in a second. But also because I have this lined up over here, then I can see my markings at the top and the bottom for my ruler. And so I want to go all the way around all four corners. I have my ruler. I'm going to use a pen. So I'm lining up the 1/2-inch mark up here and up here. And I'm going to draw down there. So I want to repeat that on all four corners. So you can either turn your paper or you can turn your mat. Like I said, if it's centered, it should be the same. This will be the back side. So if you're not using cardstock, make sure you use the back of your paper. This would be not anything you could hide later. You could use your T ruler too. I think the T ruler might be a little short, reaching all the way across. I honestly didn't try. We'll get our last edge. Then we need to mark where we're going to be able to punch later. And so I don't want to confuse you, but what I found the easier way to do is because I'm centered on my mat, my center point is at 6 inches. If you are using a ruler and you're measuring your paper, off this mat, you're really marking it at 5.5 as a center. And so on your handout, if you're not using my technique right now, you're going to want to mark in the middle, which is going to be 5.5, and then you're going 2 inches out from there. So 5.5, 7.5, 9.5, 3.5, 1.5. But because I'm centered here, I'm going to use my even measurement. So it's 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And so that, for me, that mentally was easier to do. You can also mark these across. So like here, I have my ruler all the way across. So I'm at each 6-inch side. And so I can just mark a little hashtag so that I can line up my punch. This will also keep your spacing consistent side to side. It's a little hard to do if you can't stand up over your paper. Hopefully I'm getting, I guess I could look on the screen, make sure I'm at my even marks. So I'm doing the sides, I need to flip and do the middle. Two inches apart. If you end up doing a different shape, like I'll show you with the square maker that can do a little triangle notch, you might want to make these closer together, which is why if you're going to use something different, I would use a different paper to kind of see what distance that you like. One of my suggestions is to CM, it's been to do kind of like a large edge stamp, something like this, something that gives you like a 1/2 inch. It could be a pinking or whatever. You're going to get a lot more than a blade, but kind of less than a border punch. But they obviously haven't come out with anything yet. Okay, once you have your markings, this is when you can use the circle punch. So I'll show you first how the circles will work. The other thing I've done, Megan probably has done this way back in whatever eternity, I'm sure she has. So if you followed her, you already have your circle punch marked at the halfway with a Sharpie tip. If you have not done that yet, you can take your zero ruler and then mark the middle with a Sharpie. And that will be the easiest. So then when you go around, you can line up the tip of your Sharpie with the hashtag from your pen and then just give it a little bit of punch. And you'll work your way all the way around. So it is a lot of punching. And I am making sure that the top of my circle is along that 1/2 inch line that I drew. So there's 2 points of alignment I'm looking at. I did not figure out a layout to make with these little mini circles, but I'm sure there is one. There's something you could make a border with them. Or if you were doing 2 different colors or 2 different layouts, you could flip your pieces and backfill your punched out pieces with another color.
When you are done punching, there has been a request for you to re-explain how you
Oh,
mark
the
the
circle.
center of your circle. Yeah, maybe just bring it up a little closer to the camera.
Okay. Okay, there's that on my little circles. Yeah, so this is the back of the circle punch, and you want to find the center point and mark it with a little bit of a Sharpie. And so the easiest way I think to do that is with the zero ruler. You can use any ruler. It is not quite 2 inches wide. If you're on our zero ruler, it's like 1/16 in from each edge. So I'm making sure that that's centered and then just making a little Sharpie mark. If you get your Sharpie mark wrong, like I did the first time, acetone, if you have true acetone nail polish, can take Sharpie off most things like this, and then you can redo it. The way a zero ruler works is that if this is a 0 point here in the middle, and so when you have the 0 point at what you want to measure from the center point of, you're looking on each side of the 0 to make sure that you're at the same mark on each side. So this is a very odd measurement, but we are at, so this is in 16ths. So I'm at 15/16 over here and 15/16 over here. Say I wanted to mark something, you know, a half inch on each side of the 0. I have the 0 here and I can mark half inch here, half inch here. You're kind of looking for symmetry and balance on the ruler. Does that help? Okay. So if I had a different ruler, and I have lots of rulers, what you could also do is just measure how wide it is, which I just told you it's 1 7/8. So you would have to know what half of 1 7/8 is, which then would be, I'd have to write this down. I said, what did I say? 1/16 less than an inch, 15/16, and would be your middle point. Yeah. And so then I would measure from the side 15/16, and that would be in the middle. The 0 is sometimes just a little easier because you can just make sure it's the same on each side. So here's all these extra pieces. You're welcome to figure out some nifty layout and share it with the group. I did not get that far. If you want to create something else with a different shape, the square is a fun option that can do triangles. So I did the same thing. I marked at the same measurements, and I'm using the corner of the square punch. So I'm lining up the corner there, and then I'm just kind of eyeballing to make sure that I'm kind of even on each side of that line. You can give it a little notch. If I was going to use that, I'd probably make them closer together, but you could notch your way all the way around. Maybe that would look a little bit better with your layout than the circles. We obviously have other shapes that you could use. The challenge is if you can't see through the back of it. And so like the embossed hexagon is one of them. I can't see through this because of the embossing function. So you have to be a little bit more intentional about, you can see the edge of the hexagon, and if I line up the edge of the hexagon with the line I drew, I can do that part pretty well. The challenge is going to be lining up on your hash marks. So if you drew your hash marks all the way across, if you mark the center point of your hexagon, that might help you. But it's not too hard to punch along that line. The spacing is what's going to be a challenge because you can't look through there and see your mark. The other one I was playing with, if you don't have the circle punch, but you have the love punch, this one actually does punch out a real circle. It's just a little bit smaller than the circle punch. Again, you can't see through it completely, but you can see through it well enough. Pieces in there. Oh, I think mine didn't. Maybe I slid my paper in wrong. I don't know. Apparently, maybe I've jammed it. This one was known to have issues, but I haven't ever had issues, and I just punched it the other day. Maybe the lock was open. Okay, let's try this again. Maybe it was the lock shifted. I don't know. I'm having issues. If this one actually worked, it's going to punch out the circle completely. I don't know what I did that. And then this one is like the blooming medallion. Again, it's going to give me kind of a funky shape along the edge. Maybe you like that. I can easily kind of see the line of the design along here, lining up my line, but it's going to be harder to see my line through there. But it would give me kind of a little bit of a, we don't see the backside, more of a decorative side. So you can look through your punches if you don't have the circle and see if there's one that would work. Or if all else fails, we do have the custom cutting system. If you use the inside of number 1, you're going to make sure that you're actually giving yourself a little bit of space, because remember, the blade's not going to cut exactly along the track. It's coming off just a little bit, so you'll have to kind of orient yourself where you want that, and then make sure it's kind of even in between. And then you can cut the little half circle. I'm not doing very well not standing up. You get the point though. If I move that out so I don't screw it up. My table's not very even either. If I had an even surface and I was standing up, there we go. There's my circle. So if you decide to use a different shape, the key for the measurement is to determine your middle point of your paper and then go at the same increment out each side. So I chose 2 inches, but if you're using a different shape or you want something smaller, just do the same, maybe 1.5 inches or so. And then once you have that part done, I mean, that's really all you have to do for the layout other than adhere it onto your base paper. If you want to conserve paper and use it for something else, of course, we can do Meggan's nifty binder clip technique and cut a frame out. I recommend 1 3/4 inches frame will allow you to adhere this on top without showing through, and also give you a little bit less weight and save a little bit of your paper. So I will do that off camera. But then for pictures, if you have pictures that I usually find kind of a common measurement and then trim them down, they don't have to be the same top and bottom. I think this is kind of how I was doing mine. I'm gonna overlap that one. So I just made sure like these measurements were the same, the height was the same for top and bottom, and then if it's not, it's going to overlap a little bit at the bottom. And it will give me a little bit of space down here. I can add more journaling or embellishment. If you do want to punch a border, you could run it all the way across. You could also fill in these spots with embellishments. And then if you really want something different, what I actually probably originally would have done with this layout, if I wasn't doing it 2 separately, is I would have skipped punching one side and pushed that side to the center. And so then it would have looked more like a full rectangle frame all the way around. You could also take this and cut it up, as you've seen techniques sometimes we've done with a jumbo circle or whatever. You could cut this into sections and then flip them on your page like we've done with frame punches or jumbo punches. You could cut it in half and use half on one side and half on the other. So definitely some options once you get the technique. It's pretty basic way to move around. Okay, I think Megan's answering my questions. Is there anything outstanding? She's talked about the zero ruler and the circle, and she answered those. Okay. Okay. Any questions or anything else about this one? I will hear this all together and then decide on my final embellishment. I decided to keep it pretty simple. I can't find, so if any of you are just watching and you're brainstorming, I'm trying to rack my mind if there's any like ball or outside embellishments that would work from some previous summer collection. So I love Summer Break, but it didn't have any embellishments that really go with this unless I just used kind of the generic sunshine or maybe that camera one. So if you can think of anything that has like outdoor balls and whatnot, I have a whole nother set of layouts that are playing with the ball. That would help. Thanks. Appreciate that. The old circle punch, you could use the old circle maker because you can flip that and punch from underneath. They are smaller. Our current circle punch is 1 3/4 of a circle. The large circle maker is 1 inch and 1 1/4 and 1 1/2. So 1 1/2 is going to be your largest option of there, but you can definitely turn that over and punch just like this one. I would probably space them a little bit close together, more like 1 3/4 probably, or you're gonna really space out your, yeah, it is kinda like the postage stamp, um, there, so. So yeah, if you actually get into those, then you could use the hexagon from the large maker because you can see through the bottom of that one. Half a star probably isn't gonna look very good, but yeah, the hexagon from the maker is probably easier than the embossed hexagon. Oh, Tetra, yeah, I will look, you're right, some of the school collections have balls. I should go look through there, or the sport ones that I don't really like. That's a good idea. Okay, we should probably give you to Megan before I start digressing into collection opinions.
We'd be here all night.
We'd be here all night.
We'd be here all night. So, yes, thank you for joining us tonight. I am Meggan Jax, and as Tessa mentioned, I am in Phoenix. We worked on our move, and so we're still working. We're still unpacking. I have some stubborn boxes. You know how that goes. That they just were the, I don't even want to say last minute where you just throw everything in there, but they had definitive places in our house where those contents, our old house where they went, and in this new house they don't necessarily have a definitive location. So we're going to have to see what's in the box and where can we start putting things. But plenty of hot days to do some afternoon organizing. So not a problem there to eventually get it done. I might just be procrastinating it a little bit. So my layout I do have for you, hopefully it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to my overhead camera and we will get started. So for my layout today, I'm going to be using my sample layout was done with the fur baby, or not the fur baby pink. It was done with the perfect kitty cat, and I threw everything off my table to prep for today and totally misplaced it, but here it is. Here you see. So this one is just started off as like, working with some strips of paper on a kind of a backing sheet. You might want to use, I ended up using for the backing sheet just one of the cover sheets. They're acid free. They're perfectly great to use since they're not really cardstock. This is not the cardstock weight. I go ahead and usually use those for things where I don't necessarily need white paper. I don't care if the other side shows through a little bit. So things like paper welding, where you just use thin strips to combine two pieces of paper together, or in this particular case, I'm going to put paper over the whole thing. So that's a great use for these cover sheets like this. So you're going to want to have a piece of paper like that. I don't know that I mentioned that in my supply list, but you do want to have some sort of a piece of paper that you'll be able to adhere your strips to. I think I refer to it in step number 1, but I don't actually list it in the supplies. And then I talk about using strips of paper, and I say between 2 and 6 strips of paper. You just need to cover 6 inches. You can cover those 6 inches however you want. So the first thing we're going to do is actually go ahead. I'm going to take this 12 by 12 piece of sheet, and I'm going to cut it at 6 inches, cut it in half. And then I just need to have how many ever number of strips that I want that will cover this. So I may want to go ahead and use 2 strips, cut them at 3 inches each. I could use 3 strips, cut at 2 inches each. You could do 4 strips. You're just dividing that 6 by 4 inches, which would be 1.5 inches each. 5 strips starts to be, you're getting into some weird, like, 1 1/3 inches, which gets to be a little bit more a pain in the rear end to use with the just to cut those evenly. If you really wanted to use 5 inches, I would probably go ahead and cut them, a little maybe over close to 1.5 inches, start layering the first strip in the middle and just work your way outward. You may find that your top and your bottom are a little narrower. They wouldn't be even strips. Or you could do 1 inch strips and have 6 inches, have 6 strips. You could put a border detail, lots of ways that you can cover this 6 by 12 inch piece of paper. So I am going to be using the summer collection. And I'm using the summer collection because I had some scraps of paper. I have some cardstock I'm going to be using. But I had this strip of the blue wave, and I'm going to be using that. I'm going to cut 1 2-inch strip from this, and I'll cut a second one because I want to use the polka dot paper that's on the back side. I am also going to use this blue, the tonal blue paper that says Good Times. I'm going to trim a 2-inch strip here. And I will note when I'm, cutting this 12-inch piece, I want to make sure I cut it so that my Good Times stays running parallel or horizontal, I guess would be a better word. So that when I put it on my strips, it works out better that way. And for my background sheet, I'm using this tonal paper. It's kind of that tonal Kelly green. It's out of that craft pack. I don't know if you guys have seen the My Life craft pack. It's pretty fantastic. And I love it because I was able to say, oh, I need a Kelly green. That would work really well. I didn't really want to use cardstock. And I like the polka dots on here. It's going to go with the polka dots that are on my paper here. So I grabbed that out of that tonal pack, the craft paper pack. It's fantastic. And then I do want to use a cardstock accent in my original layout. You'll see I did that with kind of the pink color. It's one of the pinks out of one of the cardstock buffets that we had. Just goes really well with the perfect kitty cat. So I am going to use, I looked in my yellow scraps. I just need a scrap. It needs to be a fairly big piece of scrap paper because we are going to be using circle number 2. And we need to get 2 big circles cut with or 2 circles cut with the red and the green. So they need to be, you need a solid 5 to 6 inches by 12 is what I would recommend. Okay, so getting started here. I'm going to go ahead and cut my 2-inch strips out of my designer paper. Pay attention to your directions. These strips are going to run horizontal. So there's 1 2-inch strip. And then I need a 2-inch strip for the other side, just flipping it over to show you that I'm using the second design. And then my Good Times tonal paper, I'm going to turn this around, make sure my design is going horizontal and give that a trim at 2 inches. So I'm just using 3 strip cut at 2 inches each. And so I've got my 3 strips here. I will probably, when I put this together, I'm going to go ahead and I'll put that white in the middle. Just kind of nice to, well, maybe I want it. Maybe I want to flank it with my blue, my dark blue in the middle. I think I'll flank it with the darker color in the middle. So what we'll do here is now we're going to adhere these pieces to the scrap paper that we cut. And we want to be fairly liberal when we apply our adhesive, because when we start cutting out our circles and such from the middle of it, we don't want those excess pieces just falling off our scrap paper. So I'm using repositionable adhesive, but I'm going to be pretty generous with it as I go down. This comes across. You want to just make sure you cover the entire piece. There we go. It's got all 3 pieces on here. So you can see we've got The 3 strips all adhered on there, used quite a bit of adhesive. They're put down pretty good. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half at 6 inches. I'm going to have 2 6-inch squares. Now for what it's worth, when I talk about putting these on straight, you honestly can put them on in any direction that you want. It's horizontal. I said horizontal. You could put them on at an angle if you want to have multiple things. The biggest thing here is we're going to create 2 6-inch square, kind of like patchwork pieces that we will then cut out those center pieces. So really whatever design you want to do, or however you want to lay your strips on here, you can do so. I just went with the super easy fast because I theoretically have to have this done in a half an hour. And so after I've got those on there, I'm going to go ahead and trim this at 6 inches. So now I have 2 6-inch squares. So we're going to be using the custom cutting system circles, and just really quick, because I know we had a person who was asking about it, and maybe we have some new people, but Tessa and I, when we refer to the custom cutting system circles, we, instead of trying to always say the smallest circle, the medium circle, so forth, we refer to as circle number 1, which is our small circle. The small circle, it does have the number, somebody commented it has the number 4 on there, and it does. I have an old set, it says number 4 right there. And that is because if you were to use the red blade on the outside track, it'll cut fairly close to a 4-inch circle. It's just a little shy of 4 inches, but it will cut that 4-inch circle. Circle number 2 is our medium circle. It does have a 5 on there. It says 5, and then I think it says 2.5. It's giving the 5 is the outside measurement with the red blade on the outside track. We'll cut a 5-inch circle. I believe when the smaller number that's in there, it says 2.5. I think it cuts a 2.5-inch circle when you use the red blade on the inside track. So if you're ever curious if they're labeled like that. Tessie, do you know, are the new ones still labeled the same way? They've got to be. They use the same mold. She doesn't know. Wait, she's useless. And then we have our largest circle, circle number 3. I use a Sharpie, as you can tell, to label these. And it has a 6 on there because red blade outside track cuts a 6-inch circle. So just how you know what those, how we label them, 1, 2, and 3. We're going to use the smallest circles, circle number 1. And we're going to cut a circle with our blue blade. We're going to cut the biggest circle that we can using circle number 1. The blue blade on the outside track will cut us the biggest circle possible when we use it on the outside track. So I need to line things up. I'm going to use my cutting mat to center my square within my cutting mat. So I'm going to come down here to 3 inches from the bottom. I'm up here to 9. I'm not quite centered there. I got to come over 3 here at the top. And now I am centered. You can also see how the 45-degree lines are coming through the corners of your squares. That's probably when you're working with a square and you're centering it on your mat, look for your 45-degree angles to come in at the corners. Tessa kind of showed that as well when she was centering hers. Now, this is where, again, as Tessa mentions, if we could stand up, we could easily see, you can see those black dots. I use those black dots and they line up with some manufacturing dot. I don't know if you'll be able to see them. I have a video that talks about using the manufacturing dots. There's another one right here that I haven't marked. Do you see that? That little clear circle right there. I have come in with strategically placed ones. They're part of the manufacturing process, and I've used a fine tip Sharpie to mark them. That allows me to easily find center. So I can come up here and I can come down through that black dot here. And there's another, where is that black dot? There's another one right down here. It's right on top of a, one of the polka dots. And then I can come across the middle, and it's hard for you guys to see, but I can kind of see where that is. I'm gonna have to stand up. I really can't see very well. Okay, there. You want to center it as much as you can. It's just gonna make things look better. Blue blade outside track. You are cutting through 2 sheets of paper, so you're going to want to use a, make sure you cut through. Take your time. There we go. Now, before I lift this up, before I move my circle, I'm still holding it in place. I'm going to see if I can rotate. There we go. This is completely loose. I've successfully cut all the way around it. If you found that you can't lift it up, you may have to go back with your blade and find that area that's still stuck down, or plan to use a pair of scissors. So I've cut that. I'm going to do the same thing with my other piece. Repeating that step, so I'm going to center it. So one upgrade that I love about my new scrapbook space is that I have a wood floor, or it's probably like some vinyl plank or whatever. So that's somebody commented. Jennifer's like, you can use the other one you cut to center it. Hey, that would work too. I have a wood floor, so now my rolly chair rolls all over the place. The downside is that before I relied on carpet to kind of like lean things up against things, and the carpet would let it like just slide out under. Oh, well, okay. Not the red blade, blue blade, outside track. So there we go. And this is where I talked about, wanting to make sure you've used a lot of adhesive to make sure that these pieces, after you've used the trimmer or the template on it, that they go ahead and they stay attached. So now we've got that done. We've got our circles, and we've got the squares that have the circles cut out. Okay, so next up, step number 4, we're going to switch over to using circle number 2. And this is an optional step. I'd say that this is an optional step. You don't have to do it. In fact, when I first started putting this together, I wasn't sure I was going to do it. Let's see what this looks like without having that accent color put in. So you can put your pieces in like such. They just go in opposite corners, and then you can come in. Now, I was able, because I use non-directional paper, I was able to rotate my pieces the other way. That's the one thing that's the downside of using something that has words in it. I really can't rotate it. It's just going to look weird. So that's okay. It works fine. I can just keep that pattern going through. It's just a little bit of a different look. And then I would be able to come in and use, putting some photos in place here. And you don't have to use the accent. I just felt like the accent color would be fun to use. And the other part about it was it just starts to help take up a little bit more space in the layout. These photos are going to be kind of far apart from each other. So having additional detail that kind of makes the overall taking up more of that section space is going to be, I think, beneficial. The nice part about it is you can cut it out of scrap paper if you want. If it doesn't work out, you don't have to include them. So let's set this to the side, bring back that yellow color. I think it's maybe daffodil. I don't know. It was in my yellow scraps. It's not canary. It's one of the ones out of the, out of the previous cardstock buffets. And maybe I have it. Well, I have it in my swatch, but it's not labeled because that's sometimes how I roll. Circle number 2, we're going to use circle number 2, and we are going to be using the red and the green blades. Now we're going to start with the green blade first. We're going to cut our outer ring. Green blade on the outside track. Now, do not lift your template. After you've already cut with the green blade, don't lift this, leave it all in place. And then you're going to come in with the red, and we're going to cut a very thin ring. So we'll use that thin ring, and we will use the circle that we've cut, the larger circle. So I've got my ring is kind of stuck in here a little bit. I'm going to grab my scissors. And I'll be able to just follow along that cut line to carefully cut out. There we go. So I have a thin ring and I have a solid circle. I'm going to repeat that one more time to cut a second ring and a second circle, starting with the green blade outside track. This time I am going to just, there we go. It's released, so that'll be fine. I won't have to cut the ring out. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my red blade outside track. And it all released well, so that's good. So now it is time for assembly. And we can just do kind of a dry fit. And just, is Max trying to steal my show, Tessa, over there? He's like distracting my peeps.
It's Gray Kitty all up in both cameras.
Is Gray Kitty up there? Is that who it is? I can't tell. You're on the little screen.
Yeah, Gray Kitty is the one invading.
Invading. All right. She wants a little bit. She's like, Max, get us all the attention sometimes. I booted Kitty from the room before we got started because she does not understand how to not keep her rear end out of the way. So here we go. We can come in with something like this. That's how I show in my layout. So just fun, bright, it's pretty cheerful. That would be a really fun layout to do as well. There's lots of ways that you can customize this. You can carry it over into additional pages. You could carry this over to a second page. You could pair it with Tessa's layout. That would be really a lot of fun to do as well. And so, yeah, I do think the ring makes a huge difference. And I think part of it is just bringing in that additional bit of color really helps, just brings in that yellow, a nice bright, picking up on the yellow that's in the polka dots there. So that works really well. So these, will go ahead, just adhere them down to the layout as you're putting everything together. And when it comes time to cut your photos, you're going to cut 4-inch circle photos. So that would be our smallest circle, number 1, red blade outside track. Then you'll be able to cut your circles to go in each of these locations. And I think that's pretty much, I did add the detail coming in here with some border stickers across. Part of me did it was because they had a really cute sticker that worked really well for this particular layout. So that's why I put this detail in there. I would come in, I would not use a chunky border here. I would go something thin. This is going to be great, depending on your particular layout. This is where you might come in. If you have the double rickrack, you could come one rickrack one direction, one the other way, or maybe a couple rickracks. You want something pretty unintrusive here, because if you come in with anything too thick, you're going to start to lose some of the detail here in the middle. So you want to keep it thin. You could just do a strip of paper, just a strip of paper, maybe one of those thinner border strips that we have, just something along those lines. I would keep it pretty simple there. And maybe it's something that you don't even add until you've got your photos on and you can see how your other embellishments work out. You may find that you don't even need it. All right. So I think that's all it is. And that honestly might be a record for me. I just want to point out, I have to say that oopsies, wrong button. As Tessa was talking and she was doing her layout, I was hearing words that were coming out of her mouth that I don't know that I've ever heard from her. First of all, she was using a ruler like a goddess, right? I don't know that I've ever seen her use a ruler so much. And she was saying things like consistent and just these words. I was like, oh my God, she's speaking my language. And So I have to laugh. I laugh. The layout was fantastic. I feel like I should have gone first and warmed you up with the circles. I mean, we really should have coordinated this a little better because normally Tess is like, oh, I'll warm you up, and Megan's going to come in with the big old technical one, but she's over there like measuring things and yeah, measuring
It
her. I
would
mean,
be
she's
funny
putting
to
marks
do
on her.
one of those word things where you like the words you say the most are like biggest on the word map. Is that what they're called? Word maps?
Yeah.
Uh,
Consistent is not going to be on yours.
no. But do you say it that much?
I don't know. I talk about consistent results. If when you're so when you're doing the repetitive punching like you're doing today, it does help to have those marks so you get consistent results every single time. Um, I had a train of thought and I forgot what is. Oh, is this the first time that you've ever marked your punch?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, you
I
have
think
to for this
I think that's
layout.
a yes. How far did you have to hunt for that Sharpie?
Oh, I have Sharpies all over the place because of other things.
Yeah, they're in your shipping stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have them. I have Sharpies for other purposes. I'm just not sure I've ever marked a punch. I mean, I just don't I mean, I don't care about consistent results. I like done results, and it's good enough results. And so a lot of my layouts aren't going to be things that require precise measuring, but I do like they won't come out and make what I want them to make, which would be kind of like a cross between a border punch and a decorative blade, like a stamping punch. That's what I want them to do. Like, don't you all think like more of like a half-inch edge to it? But so I
I
had to
would
come
like
up
to
with my
see
own.
I would like to see more of like what they did with the cloud order maker cartridge, where it's really just the edge. It gives you kind of a
Yeah,
fun design on the edge, but it's not really you're just cutting off, like you said, anywhere between a quarter and a half inch, and it's just leaving the rest. You know, I sometimes don't
yeah,
need all of the internal design. I just want a fun edge that isn't little more than a decorative blade. Um,
yeah.
so
Yeah, I think so. I think, and we all know we'd all buy them all. Like, I think they could come up with like
how can you not?
six. I mean, I think
We
there's
probably could.
probably six solid edges or six to eight.
We should just send in. We should send it into Creative Memories. We should.
I
We should
did.
design it up.
I have. And I don't even think it would like
So what we're
change
going to do
the,
is we're going to type up a form letter with attached photos and tell every one of our followers to send it into Creative Memories, and maybe then they'll listen to us.
I know.
We
I
have
know.
not. We have not immobilized. We have not mobilized the masses on this particular situation.
I know. Well, we should probably ask the masses, what do you want to see? I feel like we've seen so much stuff.
It's not about them. It's about us.
Well, I mean, they,
I know. I know. Hey, yeah. We should. We'll have to put that into the Facebook group is asking more about like what you guys would want to see there, that kind of stuff. So I did see a quick question about the 4x6 are using the you can so when I say that this cuts the circle number 1 cuts a 4-inch square, it actually cuts just shy. It's actually closer probably like to 3 and 7/8. So you can use this on a 4x6 photo. This is the size it will cut the 4x6. If you're trying to use like the bigger one here, you can actually you can cut a just slightly smaller than a 3 3/4 inch circle by using the red blade on the inside track of circle number 3. This is the big one. So you can cut a 4-inch circle just barely, but it works. So Jen, I see a question from Jennifer. She's asking about how she's having a hard time picking which one of the promos that she wants. So this comes into is like, if you guys are ordering the promos, which one are you choosing? I can tell you which one's been popular with my customers. But I'm just curious to see if for those of you who have decided ice cream nightlight, that was I will tell you, ice cream initially with my customers didn't seem to be, it was kind of like, when you're watching the hot dog race or whatever at the baseball games, you don't go to those, Tessa, but places that do those, right? And they have like the little dudes that come out running around the perimeter of the ball field. Ice cream was solidly in the back. But this morning when I got up and I was checking orders, like, oh my gosh, he shot off like a rocket. So
I think it's coffee, ice cream, night out, fun and games is the last one.
what's funny is everybody so maybe we have all the night owls right now because I am there's a person who said coffee. I feel like our early birds, they must catch us on the next morning with their coffee. that we have the night owls, because I haven't seen anybody come in and say they've gotten
Well,
the morning
I have
brew.
a couple of major problems. Number one, my favorite new thing is Rita's Italian ice. Have you guys had that? It's like Italian ice layered with custard. It's not a cone. So I'm like, well, do you have any Italian ice paper? Um, but number two, I like the paper in fun and games. I like the specific specificity. How do you say that word?
Specificity or something like that. Yeah.
Specificity of the things in there, because if you do any of those activities, it's fun to have that. But I do not drink beer. I think it's the most disgusting thing on the planet. And so I don't want the beer punch. I mean, I will buy it anyways because I know someone will buy the beer punch and I can keep the paper, but I didn't like that matchup. I mean, you could say it's root beer. We do like root beer, but and that's usually what they get, like bowling and whatnot. But I would have liked to see bowling in that mix. I don't think there's bowling in there, is there? And but I don't have the pack
I
yet. I
don't
haven't
know.
paid that much attention, but that's what I wish we had because we bowl a lot more than we. Although I did ask, I had mentioned to Jonah when I was thinking about what to do for the twins' birthday. The twins turned 15 last week, and we did go bowling. The other option would have been top golf, but I actually looked at axe throwing, and I was like, wait, if I'd realized that there was paper coming, maybe I would have been
Hey,
a little bit more like forceful. But it's expensive. I mean, what is going to be like $25 an hour each? And I was like, $100 if they don't really want to do it, just so I can use the paper. I don't know. It's kind of
we
expensive.
ended up getting, I got for my husband turned 50 last week, and I got him the backyard axe throwing. So they have this thing
Oh,
on Amazon that you can buy. I'm sure it's on other places, but I saw it and I was like, oh, that looks really fun. And it was really funny because, guys, so he's turned 50 and I thought I'm going to be able to sneak this past him release. It says, oh, it'll be delivered on July 10th, right? I was like, oh, perfect. His birthday's July 11th. I'll have it delivered July 10th. It showed up 3 days early and I wasn't even home. And he's like, hey, your package was delivered. It says on the outside, axe throwing. And I'm like, well, I tried. Sorry.
is it real? I mean, like
No, it's
adult
like
fun?
we haven't even opened it yet. I mean, it's like on a frame, and it sits there and it has like I think it has like these plastic things that come out and you have some sort of like plasticky foamy axe that you throw at it, and so it just wedges itself in there. I do not need a real axe that you throw anywhere near Cody. I'm just going to tell you right now. So, because he can probably throw it, but probably not with a whole lot of accuracy. And
Well, here's great. And they probably could have come up with some hard plastic or something. I don't know if it was like as close to real, if it was more of a kid's backyard game.
no, the reviews on it were, it sounds like adults have a good time too. I mean, if you just enjoy some root beer or other beverages while you're playing it. So see there, you can have axe throwing and root beer in your own backyard.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'll probably
Hurricane
still sell
paper,
the
yes.
punch.
We apparently need to have some El Nino and La Nina or whatever type paper that just for hurricanes and other crazy. Can I get something for the haboobs that come through? I wanted to say, I really would like to just to say haboob with a big wall of dust.
I
That
don't even
would
know
be
what that
great.
is. What's a haboob?
It's a dust storm.
Oh, we don't have those here, as you know.
Well, no, it's on the list of things you need to know when you move to Phoenix. I'm gonna I'm gonna send it to you before you come visit so you can be caught up.
I know. When's the guest room gonna be ready?
Just moved from Washington State to Phoenix, Arizona.
6 to 9 months is when that guest house is going to be ready to go. So, or the casita, but my business is going to be in the casita, so you'll have a place to sleep inside the house. It'll all be air conditioned. So next June, when you come to see me,
June.
you need
Okay.
to find out some tournaments but not in the middle of summer for Campbell to come. Send
Well,
Cooper to me. He and I can cook.
if she really did play GA, which she does not, we would be in Phoenix for soccer, but she's not that high level. But that's where they went.
Yeah, see, there was some when we were here for something I was in town for. There was a ton of soccer stuff. I mean, like some massive. Well, I think I told you about it. Some big like scouting thing that they had going on here.
And I mean, I have a friend that still lives in Phoenix. I don't visit her anymore, but when I did, I agree with you that the best times to come are like November or January, like not June and not July.
I wouldn't recommend August or September either.
Yeah, it's probably not. Okay, what's next? We're wrapping up summer scrap. So when we haven't talked about August Power Hour, so there's not really
We don't
anything to
know when it's
suggest
going
to
to be.
anyone. Yeah.
It's going to be on a Tuesday.
It'll be on a Tuesday in August. Probably not the week we start, so it won't be the 6th. So my guess is the 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. June Power Hour probably did not get a winner because my life kind of ran amok after that weekend. The other a lot of you saw my story on my page when my friend and I were going to the lake on the day after July 4th. We got ran off the road, off the interstate, and we were fine. But it started this whole 2 weeks of so yeah, I think I forgot to draw June Power Hour. I forgot to do some other things that were in a June 30th too, and it took me a couple of weeks to remember. But I will do that tomorrow when I post this email. Anything else?
That's great. Somebody's asking about end of September going to Grand Canyon. I was just typing back that, yeah, that's end of September. Grand Canyon is fine. The rim of the Grand Canyon is different than Phoenix, that it's down when you get down to the river, that it can be pretty hot. So, yeah. If you share, make sure you use the hashtags. We love to see those. We love everybody sharing their stuff. We get to see all the great stuff you guys use to put your layouts together. As a reminder, we don't care if it has photos on it. We don't care if you use Creative Memories product. I mean, we do. But if you're using something else, that's fine. Go ahead and share it. We'd love to see it. And I think that's it. Or did you already say that? I wasn't paying attention.
It's fine to reinforce messages. I did not say anything about hashtags, so I think we're good. So yeah, it's fun to see everybody. We're happy to see you.
Oh, Kathy's asking real quick about the secret box. So we've had two secret boxes, right? Just two. Yes. So yes, there will be there's 2 more secret boxes coming this year. I think last year we saw them around was like September and November or something like that was the virtual crops they were part of. So I would expect to see something similar for the next 2. It's about 1 a quarter. So we should hear more. The next release Creative Memory is going to be on July 29th. So next Friday, we'll have more detail about all that fun stuff.
Do you have any guesses
For what's coming?
Mm-hmm.
They last chance the back to school one. It's been 2 years since they gave us back to school. So maybe we could see a new
I think they're going to replace school already. I like the school, but they did let the annual paper go out.
They got rid of it. I don't know. I mean, that's pure speculation, and they might say that it needs to wait a little bit more. The new trimmer, they told advisors, I believe that advisors should be able to order 1 for our demo purposes and stuff. Sometime in July, maybe early August, maybe that's going to be part of that release. And then later in August, closer to when they release Croptoberfest, we would have, hopefully the trimmer will be available to order. That's going to be a new photo trimmer, guillotine style. It's going to be a little bit bigger. So you'll be able to cut a 4x6 without having to guess at the 4, in between the 5 and the 6 range. Right now, you kind of have to guess where it is, or, use other mechanisms to do it. So that'll be great. I would expect that to come in, and I hope it comes out with the Croptoberfest stuff, because that's always a big time. There's free shipping. There's, all that other stuff. Usually free shipping. I'm going to curse it. There won't be this year, but there should be. So, you gonna go feed your cat now?
Yeah.
I'm going to go feed myself.
All right. Well, we'll see you all in August, and I look forward to seeing your layouts.
Same here. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for joining us. Good night.